This was meant to be a Christmas video, but I have procrastinated today as if I'm trying out for the World Procrastination Championships, and I've done almost everything else except for sit down and record a YouTube video, which makes it somewhat ironic that I'm now recording a YouTube video about lacking motivation because that's what brought us here originally. But I feel like this is currently a topic that is so close to my heart and that is coming up so often in my pet photography community that I wanted to talk to you about it here because what I do with my membership and what I have in my community is so much more than just teaching people how to take and edit beautiful photos of their pets. I really feel like there is such a big mental aspect to being a creative, to being a photographer, to being an entrepreneur. And I don't want to limit us to just the technical elements of what we do when so much of it is tied up in our own mental health. And as somebody who's been struggling for quite a little while now with, I guess, burnout and just doing too much and not having had a break since 2021 for more than a few days, I feel like I am somewhat qualified to speak on the topic, even if I'm not speaking on it as from the perspective of kind of a mental health care professional. So obviously, this is all just my thoughts and opinions on if you're also feeling really demotivated and a bit uninspired at the moment as we're coming into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, or I guess at any point in time. Because part of the whole thing here is that I believe that motivation and inspiration comes and goes. We are seasonal, and I think that our inspiration and motivation for whatever it is that we're involved in, whether that is some kind of arts, whether it's running our own business, whether it's doing some kind of sports, all of these things go through seasons. And it is so, so normal to have a down winter season, to just rest and refresh yourself, put plans in place for the next year, grow some roots, get some systems set up, and then go into the next stage of your life, your business, your creative hobby, whatever it is, with a little bit of a new sense of vigor. So what I wanted to do today in this video is talk a little bit about my current feelings around burnout and lack of motivation, some signs that you might also be in that kind of space and what to do about it, and then some hopefully practical, gentle suggestions for how you might go about getting your creativity or inspiration back if that feels like it's going to serve you. I thought rather than just have me sit here and talk at you for 20 minutes, I would edit a photo at the same time. Obviously not going to be an editing tutorial, but I just thought that way those of us with ADHD or other brains that want to focus on more than one thing at once can do that. You can watch me edit. You can also just mute me and watch me edit if that is what you feel like doing. If that's going to get you interested in pet photography, then by all means, feel free to do that. So basically, for me, the I've been feeling quite burnt out for quite a while now, and it really came to a bit of a head while I was in Norway recently. I drove all the way up to Scandinavia to travel through Norway and Sweden for about a month, 2 months. I had been wanting to go on this trip for so long. I traveled through there in 2017 and it was not the best time, and I felt like this was my revenge tour, and I really wanted to take a bit of time to explore the north of Norway and, have my dogs there. Journey had just been injured, so I was really looking forward to it. I was like, I will make some lessons while I'm there. I'll film some stuff. I'll do a bunch of amazing landscape photography. It's gonna be so good. I'll do all these self-portraits. There'll be cool skies, there'll be cool mountains. But then I got there, and quite often the weather didn't want to cooperate for a start. And then I just felt this huge sense of pressure and this huge guilt when I wasn't creating, and this huge, like, oh, I've come all this way and this is just going to be, I'm just going to waste this time up here. And when I tell you that there is nothing that kills creativity like obligation, and I felt like I should be posting all these things on social media and posting all these stories and making all these videos. And I really was trying to make videos pretty much every day while I was there. And then at some point it just came to a head and I kind of melted down a little bit. And I feel like being in this kind of state of burnout really didn't help me enjoy the trip. There were other reasons why the trip was a little bit difficult for me, but I do think that a lot of it came down to just being burned out and not enjoying traveling anymore, not enjoying just being in the scenery or wanting to take my time and just feeling like everywhere that I went, everything that I did, I should be making content from. I should be photographing it. I should be filming it. I should be. So for me, this is for sure something that I have been struggling with lately a lot. But I have also noticed in my membership that a lot of my members are also kind of feeling this way. And I'm guessing it's a seasonal thing, and we're all coming into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so, this idea of losing motivation right now is really normal. And I honestly think it is something that comes and goes. And then by the time you're in a situation like I am, where you have literally tens of thousands of photos of your own dogs just doing stuff, for me, it takes something quite different or spectacular or interesting for me to be like, oh my gosh, I have to get this on camera. Like, I have to capture this moment or this scene or whatever it is. And because I have so many photos now that there has to be something a little bit different about it. So that also doesn't help for sure. But I do think that the seasonal thing doesn't help. Where we've got darker days, shorter days, colder weather. There's a lot working against us, particularly as outdoor photographers or natural light photographers, that is going to stop us from wanting to get out there and take photos because it's just not that fun out there at the moment. So there is that thing. And like I was saying, there is also the idea of our lives or our businesses or our pursuits, whatever they happen to be, moving in seasons. And I learned this actually from a mindset coach for dog agility competitors because she was actually talking about seasons in your like agility year and how it is quite normal to move through different seasons, even within agility, like a dog sport. So you have seasons where you're like pushing forward, you're doing new things, and then there's seasons where you are calmer, you're building your muscles or you're building your mindset or you're building your game or whatever, but you're not like pushing in the competition season. So I do think that this is something that is applicable across disciplines, not just necessarily in photography. And I do think that we need time to regenerate, to rest, to give ourselves a break, to put the camera down and take a moment to look at where we are, maybe look at where we've come from, look at how far we've gone, and kind of ask ourselves, like, what do we want to do next? Where do we want to go from here? Or we just need some time to like step away from that thing, especially if it isn't serving us or if it isn't bringing us joy. Now, obviously, if this is your business we're talking about, so you're a pet photographer, that's your job, that's your business, that's what you do for a living. It's obviously going to be a lot more difficult to step away from that. I know because I think since February 2021, when I launched my membership, I don't think that I've taken more than 3 or 4 days off of work in some form, whether that's being on social media and posting stories or replying to things in my community, that kind of thing. I don't think that I've had more than a few days off. I have planned time off over the holidays, and you should too if you are an entrepreneur or somebody that works for themselves. Please make sure to schedule time for yourself. But, I think we need that time to have a break, to have some downtime, to clear our minds, to take that pressure off, and to be able to do so without guilt. And for me, that is one of the hardest things because I'm like, if I don't show up on social media, the algorithm's gonna hate me. And then I'm gonna have to start from zero and I'm not gonna have any reach and nobody's gonna find me. But I think at the end of the day, your health has to be a priority over an algorithm. You know what I mean? And I wish that I could give myself that advice, and I am trying to give myself that advice. this winter, but it is definitely easier said than done. So if that is something that you're struggling with, do make sure that you schedule some time for yourself so that you also don't get burned out and that you give yourself a winter season. And maybe you take that winter season to make improvements to your business in other ways. Like, I find it quite cathartic to plan for 2025. I like making plans, I hate carrying out plans. So, for me, making plans for 2025 is quite fun. So that could for sure be something, if that is something that you find enjoyable, that could be something that you might want to do as well. Finding things that aren't giving you that sense of pressure. And I think as well, there is so much more pressure now because of social media and because of this hustle culture and because of this need to constantly be churning out new content and new reels and new photos, and everything has to be new, that one way, or one thing that I've just done recently actually, is to post old photos every now and then. After all, I have thousands of photos dating back 4 years since I've been, or 3 years since I've been professional, 4 years, I guess. And so I had quite a big back catalog of photos that, and I'm still happy with a lot of my old ones. So for me, there isn't really a problem in uploading some of those old ones because I still like them. Maybe I could do a quick touch up in an editing program to kind of improve them a little bit to reflect my style now a little bit more. But I don't want to get caught in the trap of having to constantly be creating new stuff all the time, because that for me is just exhausting. So if that is something that would serve you, then that might be something to consider as well. But we'll get to more tips when we get to the practical tips kind of section. I think most of us know when we are in need of rest, but if you're not sure and you're listening to this, like, I don't know, I think I could keep pushing through. Here's some, I mean, these aren't signs of burnout necessarily, because I don't feel like I'm necessarily qualified to speak on the topic of burnout, but I do think these are signs that maybe you want to kind of reflect on, what is happening in your life, in your business, in your creativity, in your art, like whatever it is, and whether it is still serving you. So obviously, finding whatever that artistic pursuit is to be a chore, it's usually not a great sign. And I noticed that a lot in Norway. I really didn't feel a lot like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to like getting out and taking these photos and, creating something beautiful here. It would be like, I guess I have to do this. And that is a little bit sad. And it did put a little bit of a dampener on my trip, but it is what it is. And I guess maybe a trip north to realize that. Is the price that I paid. But obviously, your creative, especially if it was a passion of yours. I know for sure with me, I used to love editing, and I still enjoy it to a degree, but it is definitely much more of a chore now. It is much more of a job. And of course, it is my job. But there is also a certain pressure associated with, okay, I'm doing an edit, therefore I should be filming it. I should be making content of this. I should do a time lapse of this. I should set up my phone somewhere so it's looking over my shoulder so that I'm going to have content that I can put somewhere at some point. I have so many things that I've filmed as content that I just haven't used. And, it's all just sitting on a hard drive because I mostly forgot that I took it. But, there is a lot more pressure now around, okay, I should be filming this, I should be filming that. Where is the rest of his leg? Oh, it's back there. So yeah, feeling that pressure and feeling that guilt and losing that joy and that thing feeling like a chore. I think another thing, and this one doesn't apply to me so much specifically, but it's definitely something that's come up with my members in the community, is feeling a lot of comparison to other people, whether that's other photographers because you're a photographer, or, people in your field, or you're looking at somebody's edits and being like, oh my God, I can never do that. That is that is unachievable or whatever, that is also usually a sign that maybe you just need to take a little step back and, rest a little and go from there. And I think really, like for me, the biggest one is just the loss of joy. Like I was saying, I really used to like editing. I used to like the process a lot more, but then just in the last little while, it really has become less of a joyful pursuit and more of like a mandatory one. So I think that's something that if you are, especially if it's a hobby or if it's a creative pursuit that you're supposed to enjoy doing, if the joy has gone from it, then I think that that is the time to kind of analyze maybe what is going on and why, and whether like taking a step back wouldn't be the worst idea to get that inspiration and to get that motivation back. So then what are you going to do if you've lost your motivation and you're feeling a bit garbage and you feel like, well, you should be taking photos for social media or whatever, but you're just really feeling a little demotivated? First, just know that it's okay to be feeling this way, and that if you can take some of the obligation off of yourself, then I would do that for a start. And obviously, if you are like a professional pet photographer or a professional photographer and this is your job, that is going to be easier said than done because you need to be creating photos for clients and so on. But if there is some way to take some of that pressure off and to just let yourself create for you, then that would probably be my first port of call. Because I do think if you can create for yourself because you're inspired by something, or you find something beautiful, or you find something interesting, or you want to show a cool place that you've just walked, or a lake, or some fog, or something, those are the moments that can kickstart your inspiration, rather than that, again, that obligation of, okay, I'm going for a walk, I should take the camera, maybe I'll take some photos while I'm there. I feel like that rarely works, especially for me. Whereas if I go explore somewhere new, or I wake up and I see that like there's a heap of fog around, I love fog, I will always be inspired by fog. Or I go somewhere new because I'm traveling, that is usually a time where I'll be like, right, oh, cool, I'll take some photos of my boys because we're somewhere new and I want to show this cool or interesting place or thing or whatever it is that I have found to be inspiring in that moment. That can be really helpful. On the flip side, one thing that has helped me in the past is to go to new locations without my camera, which might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but it's kind of like if I go there and there's something really cool and like, I don't know, some magical mossy forest or something, right? I go there, I see this magical mossy forest, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this forest and I want to take photos here. Oh, and I could take them there, and I could put a dog on this log and I could pose him like this, and then he could look at that light, and then this and this. You best believe that I'm going to go home. I'm going to, sit on it for a day or two, grab my camera and head back to the forest. Now, that's obviously not doable in every situation. If you just drove 3 hours to go for a hike, maybe bring your camera with you. But if you're like, I'm going to check out this new forest that I found on Google Maps, it's only 20 minutes away, let's go have a look, 40 minutes, whatever. I don't know. I'm from Australia. I could drive an hour and I'd be fine. Let's go have a look at how this forest looks. And then you get there, then, you can always go back. Obviously, if you're 3 or 4 hours away, it's probably not as doable, but that is for sure something that works for me, is finding somewhere I find inspiring without my camera, because that really like awakens the excitement to return there with my camera at a later date. And then I'm quite inspired once I get back there to take photos there. So that is kind of the flip side of take your camera everywhere, which I think is conventional advice. So sometimes it can be worth not taking your camera if it's somewhere that you can easily return to in the future. I think another thing, especially as you're coming or we're coming into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, is to have a look at re-editing old photos. So rather than feeling like you have to be constantly taking new photos all the time, get some of your old favorites and see if you've learned some new editing techniques, especially if you've been in like a course or, a class or something, or you've seen some of my videos, you're like, oh, I want to try out those new techniques. Try them out on old photos, because then you can take some of that pressure off of having to go out and take new photos to then edit, but you can instead edit your old ones, and then you can see your progress, which is quite fun and quite inspiring as well. So that can also be something worth trying if you're in a bit of a slump and it's raining, you don't want to go outside and it's cold and it's wet and it's gray and it's dark. Grab some of your old photos and have a go at editing those instead, because that can sometimes be also quite motivational too. Another idea can be to start or to think of a kind of personal photography project. So I have an idea that I've been wanting to work on for ages. I just don't have the mental energy to actually sit down and plan it out. But maybe there's some way that you want to show your dog's relationship to you in a more kind of abstract way than just, hey, look at us sitting side by side taking a photo. Maybe there's some other way that you can represent your relationship with your dog, or maybe there's some ways that you can help shelter dogs or show adopted shelter dogs and make a whole story out of that. There's a lot of different ideas for personal photo projects. If you're really stuck, I bet that ChatGPT or Claude AI could help you to come up with some ideas so that you can get a little bit unstuck. But having a personal photo project could just inspire you to take photos in a slightly different way, with a goal, with a plan, with something that is, yeah, a little bit different to just, okay, we're going to a forest and we're going to take photos there. One thing that I did that I will put some photos of here in a minute, when I was feeling a little bit stuck a while ago, was to start experimenting with things like prisms and mirrors and getting bits of like clear plastic and kind of putting it around the lens, which gives it a really pretty sort of blurry effect. So that could also be something worth playing with. It, not necessarily using props, because I think people go overboard with props a little bit too much, but using things that maybe affect the lens or that tell a little bit of a different story. So maybe using some fairy lights strung between you and the dog, or in the trees in the background, or something like that. There's a lot of different kind of objects that you could use just to play around with. Like, a lot of the photos I took when I was using plastic in front of the lens, I mean, they turned out kind of interesting. I think it works better with people portraits because it makes more sense for this kind of artsy style than to have a dog sort of posing there, um, looking at the camera or not looking at the camera, or whatever it happens to be. But that for me was a real inspiration starter, because it gave me some new effects. It was free. I just used bits of plastic that I like used a rubber band around the lens. It made some cool effects. It got me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I just wanted to try what effects I could get with that technique. So that is for sure something as well that could be worth having a look into in terms of kickstarting your motivation. And last of all, a shameless plug, because we are coming to the end of my TED Talk. Thank God, because it was longer than I expected. So thanks for sticking around, but at least you got to watch and edit at the same time, right? Is to join a class or a course or a membership where you can maybe learn some new tools and techniques, where you can get inspired. Maybe they have a community that's really nice. Maybe in their membership, they have a monthly challenge or assignment that doesn't focus on perfection. It doesn't focus on, there's no pressure in the challenge. It's more of a way to get you out of your comfort zone and to encourage you to pick up your camera with a goal by a deadline to try some new things, but you aren't judged on it, because I just want people to be getting out there and getting inspired. So if you're looking for such a membership, I have one. We have hundreds of lessons. It's, I think, sometimes you just need something new and exciting, especially if you are like a neurodiverse mind that is going to thrive on novelty. There's so many lessons in there. There's the community, there's the challenges every month, there's new lessons every single month, there's live events every month. So maybe that is also something that you consider, whether that's with me or somebody else. But sometimes just committing to your learning or to your journey or to your photography is also a method to help you get out of that slump. that is pretty much where I'm leaving the photo for now. I will have a look at that when I have fresh eyes later. Check the histogram, it looks quite okay. He's looking a little bit crispy in the face, but we might run it through some denoise just to smooth it out. And I hope that maybe you've enjoyed this little chat. Let me know in the comments if you did or didn't, I guess, because I would like to do some more of these kinds of chats with you guys while I'm editing, so you can watch me edit. I can ramble on about stuff. Maybe we all connect a little bit more. Maybe you learn something, maybe you don't. Maybe you just put me on mute. And but if there is somebody that this has resonated with because you are feeling a little bit burnt out or a little bit demotivated and maybe some of my tips have been helpful, please let me know because I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I hope this has helped you to feel maybe a little bit less alone and giving you some ideas for how you can get out of that rut if that feels right for you at the moment. And if you just need some time to winter, then do that and be kind to yourself. That was my biggest tip that I almost forgot. It's in big letters on my notes. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't make it a chore. Otherwise, you're just going to ruin your love for it. And I think that that is maybe the saddest thing of all. So thanks for being here. Look after yourself. And maybe I'll be back in a week or two with a Christmas video. Let's see.